Life on Life's Terms coach, because life be life, and right? All right. So this morning we're going to talk about further on our self-love. A lot of people confuse self-love with, actually habits, things that aren't self-love, things that can actually cause us more damage than we deserve, right? So we're going to talk about that today. The truth about self-love, and whose voice are you listening to? Whose voice do you have in your ear? Because a lot of the times the voices that we have in our ear are, like not really true. It's just something that might have been true, another person's truth inflicted on us, and we've chosen to take that truth as our own. And so that's what we're going to talk about is the choice. The healing part today is talking about our choices. Are we making choices? Are we making choices that align with us and our worth? So I want to thank you for those of you who will join here with me earlier this morning than usual. And I apologize that if you show up here at 9 o'clock and you're like seeing that I've already done the video, I apologize. Every once in a while, things will be going on. This is my day off. So every once in a while, things will be going on and I have to come on a little early. I get to come on a little early because I don't want to miss you all. So today I'm just going to kind of get started. We're talking about the truth about self-love. Whose voice are you listening to? Huh? Whose voice are you going to listen to? So self-love isn't something that we do. It's something that we become, that we are already. You were born worthy and loving and divine. So it's not about becoming somebody else. It's about returning to yourself, because many of us trying to receive love outside of ourselves have become someone else. So really what I had to do, and what I encourage you to do, is to be who you are, because then the right people can align with you instead of you trying to fit in somebody else's mold or trying to make somebody else fit into your mold, which is really an illusion, because we are who, many people tell me, well, I am who I am. And we call for healing. The thoughts, the perceptions of the imperfections of ourselves. That's all that healing is it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you on a moral level or, a terminal level. Good morning, Colton. It's good to see you this morning. Where are you joining from? Hey, Akash Kumar. I'm good. How are you? So I'm a mindset coach, for those of you who don't know, a life coach, life on life's terms coach, because life is life. And you know what today is, though? Today is Wednesday. And I mean W-I-N, okay, W-I-N-S, and then a shamrock, D-A-Y, because this is the thing, is how important that our words are and our choices. So today our topic is the truth about self-love, and whose voice are you listening to? A lot of times when we feel defeated, we're listening to a voice from our past that for some reason we seem to think that voice is the truth about ourselves. And while some things may be the truth at one time, we are in an ever-evolving world. And you have the capacity to recall who you were originally, because, it's about not becoming someone else. It's about being who you are, and those people will join you. Hello, Reed. It is easier than Akash, isn't it? So thank you very much for being here this morning. So self-love isn't something we do. A lot of people may be buying a purse with a name brand on it. They may think that's self-love, which, if that's your thing, that's okay. But that's not who you are. When you die, that purse ain't going with you. You may have a bunch of those purses and they're not going with you. So self-love is about being ourselves and remembering who we are, that a purse doesn't make us who we are. A job doesn't make us who we are, because those things can come and go. Who you are. My name is Stacy Renee, and I'm a mindset coach. So, who we are is our essence, and you were born with your essence. You were born whole. It's just that sometimes, what if in our stories that we chose the stories. Now, some people have had some horrendous ones, and it can be like, oh my gosh, are you trying to tell me I chose this? I don't know. But empowerment means to take our power back and write our own stories. Good morning, Epic. This is not a Wendy's. So the truth about self-love and healing the voice that hurt you. So today I want to continue our conversation about self-love because this is where real healing begins, is that it's not those things outside of you. Healing begins inside of you to where you're not trying to anticipate and strategize your way through life and wearing yourself out and being tired. I'm not a professor. I'm a mindset coach and a life coach. That's not a professor. So thank you though. You told me your name is Reed. Let me write that down so I don't forget now. Okay. No, Reed, I'm not a professor. I'm a mindset coach. So we've been talking about the difference between self-love and self-sabotage because a lot of times what we do is we're trying to escape ourselves and or escape the pain, escape something, and we distract ourselves and we think that I did miss the joke. I did. I did miss the joke. Is it because the way that I look this morning, I get it now, Epic. I get it. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm just too serious. We have to all remember not to be too serious, myself included. Thank you, Epic. I get it. But I don't have red hair and ponytails. There's that. I do get it now. Thank you. Once I know it's a joke, sometimes I just am like, woo, they go right over. So thank you. I'm glad that you're here this morning. So the difference between self-love and self-sabotage, we talked on Monday about how, happy Wednesday to you all. Remember your winners and remember that your language, whose voice, we're talking about whose voice that hurts you. Hello, Healing with Mama Love. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So the difference between self-love and self-sabotage is it's what ends up running our lives because sometimes what we do is we think is self-love is and when we're escaping, we're going to reward ourselves, right? And sometimes our rewards are not very healthy for ourselves, whether it be food, shopping, drugs, sex, alcohol, whatever. We're looking for comfort outside of ourselves. And your comfort is inside of yourselves. Hello, George. Good morning. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, finding that comfort within ourselves, being comfortable in your own skin from within is really a thing. And we can get there. But some of us, in our feeling of being defeated, we just think we're never going to get there. And so, when we return to who we are originally, good morning, Samuel. When we return to who we are originally, our wholeness, you were born whole. It's these challenges, changes, and chapters in our lives that may have us feeling less than whole. It may have us feeling broken and depleted. So please hang in here as I talk about this morning. So we're going to talk about, the bowl, the Japanese bowl that's filled with gold is in feeling depleted. And it's so funny how we notice what we notice. And when we notice our words and we notice what we want, because when I was writing this yesterday, I had not been on Instagram, and a surgeon that I used to know had talked about that bowl and actually posted a picture of herself being broken like the bowl, having the gold filigree, filling in. And so it's so funny how when we notice these things, when we say our words, how things are going to appear, like I talked about last week. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, but I'm sitting near beautiful Cancun, Mexico. So when we talked about our words last week, I said, it's funny how when you are looking at a car or buy a car and you don't see many like it before you get it, and then you see them all over the place. This is how your words work too. So it's about whose voice are you listening to? Girl, when I saw those hearts, I wondered if that was you. Good morning, beautiful. You know what? I got to have a dream about Calvin last night with all of our talks. It was that I thought, how did I have a dream about Calvin? I had a dream about Calvin, girl. He was buff and I got to give him a hug. And so I thought, oh, I can attribute that to my talking about him with Kim last night. So thank you so much that I get to do that. For those of y'all who don't know, I lost my son when he was 18. And so we thrive. People who have lost a child or, a lot of people who've lost somebody thrive on these dreams, getting that connection. So what made me wear glasses? I can't see without the glasses. And I have my notes here so I can read your notes, but I wouldn't even be able to read you asking me about what made me wear glasses if I didn't have these glasses on. It's not something that I choose as a fashion statement, honestly. So thank you, Reed. Thank you so much, George. Well, I'm glad you stopped to tell me, hey, girl, I love you and you have an amazing day, okay? All right. Thank you. All right. So, for those of you who don't know, I am a mindset coach and I work with people and I have friends. My people are my friends too. Yes, it does improve my vision to see it's not fashion. Thank you so much, Samuel. So, we're talking about the difference between self-love. Thank you so much, darling. I appreciate that. Grinch went in his house, so he's not going to attend this video yet. He will probably come out when we do the breathing because he's gotten where he just comes out and. All right, you have an amazing day. So fear can look like self-protection, but when fear is making our decisions, we can begin to give our power away to these things. What are we giving our power to? Is it that fear? John London, thank you for seeing me and getting on here. I want to thank you all so much for joining me a couple of hours earlier today. I appreciate that. Because, yeah, sometimes I need to get on here earlier because it's my day off and I'm going to go to the beach. Kim says, hey, John London. Of course, you can probably see that, but thank you. I just love this community. Thank you all for being here today. So we've been talking about the difference between self-love and how self-sabotage and how fear often ends up running our lives without us even realizing it, okay? So, he will. He will. I love John being here. Yes, it is. Well, many blessings to you, Narendra Modi. Hi, Kshetrapa. So we're talking about my name. If you're new here, my name is Stacey Renee. I'm a mindset coach. And it's Wednesday, and we're talking about being aware of the words. So this topic today is the truth about self-love and healing the voice that hurt you. Because a lot of the times when we have negative self-dialogue, it's just repeated from someone that had said some negative things to us. So we're going to talk about how we get to choose. You get to choose your own words now, your own vocabulary, and making your own choices. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, but I'm sitting near beautiful Cancun, Mexico. So fear can look like self-protection, but when fear is making our decisions, we can begin to give our power away. And we don't want to give our power away. Empowerment. Good morning, Brittany. Empowerment is being in your power. Well, thank you, Samuel. Where are you at? Where were you born? So today I want to go deeper into this. Dane, darling Dane, it's good to see you this fine morning. Thank you for being here. So how do we recognize what self-love is and what's not self-love, y'all? So knowing the difference between it so that we make choices and decisions accordingly to what we want. What are the words we're saying? Thank you. So if we're saying, I want to lose weight, we need to make choices that are in line with us losing weight. If we want to have security, we need to make choices that are aligned with having security. And so we have to learn how sometimes from India. Well, it's good to see you, and I'm glad that you are here, and maybe someday you'll get to go to America. So, yeah, right now it's really difficult, I think. So, how do we recognize what is and is not self-love? Our dialogue, but it's like learning to heal those words that hurt us so that we can change our words. So those words don't pop back in our mind, but being in power, in control of our own mind so that we're not looking for power outside of ourselves or for love or for comfort or for attachment. So one of the first places we start is with the dialogue inside of us. Also, the dialogue that once came from outside of us, because there's a thing called verbal abuse. And I don't know how much I can say about abuse on here because my last video, it came up, but it's not letting me do anything with it. Yes, like it's neuroplasticity, right? John London is changing your neural pathways, neuro-linguistic programming. But we can change our neural pathways, like with the words that we say and the perceptions that we choose. But we have to heal those old perceptions that just trigger us and automatically come to where we're reacting and we learn how to respond. You're exactly right, John London. Thank you so much. So healing that dialogue that once came from outside of us, because some people have made us feel less than. We made us feel, because at one point in time we didn't have a choice on those words that came from outside of us. But as adults, because this isn't made for kids, so as adults, our choices we get to shape our own choices, but there's an inner child wound sometimes that still we can still hear those voices that didn't help us. Thank you for those hearts. Thank you. So sometimes the words were subtle and sometimes they were direct, sometimes repeated over time. And this is what we call the imprint, the ingraining, embedding of this dialogue in our mind. And so it's not something that we want, but it also causes us to create what we don't want by trying to give that so much energy. So good morning, Manoush and Kamrul, and thank you. So I want to add something important here, okay? So verbal abuse is not always just yelling, insults, and harsh language. That's not always what verbal abuse is. So verbal abuse can also be blame. Yes, mantras are similar. And I'm going to talk about that here. It's so funny. We are on the same page, John London. So blame is when a child is made to feel responsible for someone else's emotions. And many children were, feeling responsible for other people's emotions. Mr. Samenfeld, you made it. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you. So verbal abuse isn't always yelling, cursing. Sometimes it's blame. Sometimes it's making a child feel responsible for an adult's emotions. A child isn't equipped to carry that burden, but many of us did, right? So we grew up believing that if everyone around us was okay somehow, or if they weren't okay, we were doing well. But if they weren't okay, we were failing. That's what our belief system, it's at extremes, this either or. And a lot of us are living our life today at these extremes. It's either way good or it's way bad. And the reality is life on life's terms is like our breath and like our heartbeat. It does go up and down. And how do we keep that from affecting our inner dialogue? Is to be empowered with our choices and our words, or what our intentions and motivations are connected to, and that's our choices. So our wounds deserve to be healed, y'all. So statements like, hello, bright minds, greetings to you. Statements like, you made me angry, or look what you did. How many of y'all heard, look what you did growing up? And if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't feel this way. And the sad thing is some of us may be saying that today, the repetition of that. Today, we're talking about how, whose voice is it that hurt you? Healing those wounds of those voices that hurt you so that you can have your own voice, because your words, today is Wednesday. And even that in itself is like Winsday. And so Wednesday is about empowerment. It is. When we look back, y'all know me, I like to look back at what do these things mean? And I did before. And so, it originated like in Celtic days with the Odin. And, it's just really about empowerment. So when we get to choose, many of us were programmed with these words to, oh, Wednesday's hump day. A lot of people call Wednesday hump day, but what if Wednesday is actually Wednesday, Winsday? Because it's all about the words, how we perceive these things. But when we had these imprints, these embedded, these ingrained words, these sentences, if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't feel this way. You're the reason I'm upset. This is blame. Blame, and blame is not empowerment. A child doesn't have the emotional capacity to carry the responsibility for an adult to feel emotionally safe. But a lot of us, our parents didn't know better. This isn't even about blaming our parents for this. If this was the case, it's not about blaming their parents for this because they didn't have Google or YouTube. So empowerment is something that we learned. I don't even think our parents learned the word empowerment to mean anything other than getting riches and that success looks that way. If they could afford to take care of their families, if they could afford to do this, and that's an important thing, but that's not all that success is. So it's about being mindful of the words and what words we're going to let in and heal the words that once hurt us. So when we catch ourselves saying to someone else, you're the reason I'm upset, and feeling how that feels in our soul, how it crushes our own soul when we say something like that. To blame and putting off and transfer this onto somebody else. Because what it is really just frustration transferred onto somebody else. And when we don't learn to observe ourselves, we don't know to say, you know what, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. Many of us didn't learn how to communicate like that and say, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. I am feeling really overwhelmed right now. A lot of people blamed and transferred that onto other people, which became their word imprint, their mental and emotional imprint. And so they're trying not to make other people feel that way because they don't want it to they don't want to keep hearing that because that hurts, right? Because we don't want to be blamed. We feel guilty. We talked about earned guilt and unearned guilt last week, and what are we going to feel guilty about? So when that happens repeatedly, the child learns something very painful. I'm responsible for everyone's feelings. That's what happens is they start thinking I'm responsible for everyone's feelings and we are not. Yes, it has become a part of our conversation. I'm frustrated or angry. Yes. You got to understand that people grow up in different environments and have different. I totally do understand that, Daddy. Case. That's why, that's the thing is that this is a general thing, but also this is to help people. My intention every morning, good morning, JR, is to get up and help people, a bit like an extreme attachment style. Exactly, John London. And a lot of us, this was a learned behavior. Oh, it's okay, Daddy KVC. It's okay. So it's about, what I'm talking about today is the choices of our words, because our words are expressions of our thoughts, but our feelings, the words are associated with our feelings, and the feelings are expressions of our body language and what we will do. And so this talks about self-love and self-sabotage today, and we talked about Monday how to know the difference. Sometimes we are actually sabotaging when we're making choices that, just to escape. But a lot of us didn't know because, like children, when these things were pummeled at us as children, we didn't know how to process that. So it doesn't just go away because we develop adult bodies. These words are sometimes still in us, and sometimes we are not very verbally nice to ourselves. A lot of people have a negative, what they call the negative dialogue, and so when we have this negative dialogue, it's oftentimes something that was heard before that's a fear within us. Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. Hopefully today's live will help you because when I get up in the morning, and I get on these lives, wherever, whatever platform it is it's my good morning, beautiful mama. It's my intention to be able to help at least one person. If I do that, I feel like my day is set because I'm a mindset coach and not everybody can afford coaching. So sometimes we can feel crazy in this crazy world. Life on life's terms can be, crazy sometimes. So helping us to understand ourselves better because so many people don't understand ourselves, and so we feel defeated by trying to navigate. Thank you so much, Daddy KVC. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, because we've got a few minutes still left. So I hope that all the things that I say are going to help you. And at the end of this, we do a breathing exercise that helps us to regulate our mind and our central nervous autonomic system. Because a lot of times when we grew up in this type of thing, then our autonomic system, our cerebral spinal it's ready to, when I talk about how our feelings are we're ready to anticipate and strategize how to get through this life so we don't feel defeated. Good morning, Silent Gaming. Good morning, Buttercup. I like that. Good morning. So when that happens repeatedly, good morning, beautiful mama, if I didn't say it. So when that happens repeatedly, the child learns something very painful. So they learn that they're responsible for other people's feelings, and that becomes internalized. Like I said, the anticipating, the strategizing, so that the walking on eggshells. They're not wanting to rock the boat because when child got blamed for things, when a parent was frustrated or overwhelmed because they didn't know another language. So we get to change our own language and our own voice, and that's where our empowerment comes from, is our voice, because like I said, the words are expressions of your thoughts. So if we're thinking more towards what we want, we as human beings, we have to catch ourselves because we do have the negativity and the positivity, but so that we're not in extremes to go to harmony, because it's about, we have to consider ourselves, and a lot of us didn't learn to consider ourselves. So later in life, these feelings can show up as guilt, anxiety, people pleasing, over responsibility, and the fear of disappointing others, right? Anybody here? So we begin blaming ourselves for the things that were never ours to carry. When I talked about last week, the unearned guilt, if you didn't get to see that, check that out, because we'll start taking on things that aren't ours to carry. So over time, that voice becomes our own internal dialogue. That's not self-love. When we're talking to ourselves, I talked the other night about how, thank you, Dr. KVC, and good morning, Harry Walker. So when I was talking about last week, I got to get back on my thoughts. Sometimes that's why I have notes, y'all, because sometimes I'll say hello and then I forget the whole thought chain and train. So, when I was talking about the self-love, if we're hearing this dialogue, a lot of times when we perceive that people think negatively of us, that's even negative. That's even not being nice to ourselves, and that is not self-love. Because unless they said it, we don't know what they're thinking. And I had to learn this myself, because I used to think people were thinking negative things about me, or the way that they were acting was negative towards me. And I had to realize people are in their own mind or their own brain, because do you realize that our brains are like our cell phones, and it has all this data in it? And there's so many thoughts coming at myself. There's so many thoughts coming at other people if we choose to be in our own mind. So learning to get back in our own mind. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Instead of trying to navigate and strategize what other people are thinking and feeling, so that what? So that we feel safe. So that we feel safe. Whether it's in your family, whether it's in your partnership, whether it's in your work, friendships, so that we can start learning to feel comfortable in our own skin from within. Thank you. Good morning, King to Bag. I'm doing good this morning. I came on early because I am going to the beach this morning before the rays get too bad. King Daddy KBC, it sounds easy, but for me, it's not so easy. I know. I hope, Viola, you made it. So I hope that what I say today is going to help you feel understood, to help you feel more comfortable in your own skin, to know that you're not crazy, you're not stupid, and you're not lazy. Okay? So I'm going to get back to the notes. It's 2 p.m. I'm going to the beach later. Good, good. Yeah, we have to be careful not to get the heavy rays and get burnt. I know I don't want to get burnt. So, yeah. JR, maybe I'll do a live at the beach just for a minute and take y'all there. We'll see. We'll see. So over time, that voice becomes our own internal dialogue. If you're just coming on, I talked about how blaming and all this stuff that we may have learned earlier, that, maybe our parents were just frustrated and overwhelmed, but we might have got blamed. And what that sounds like, let me see where I'm at. So let's learn survival. So if you're just coming on, it's like verbal abuse. Sometimes we are verbally abusing ourselves. True, quietening the mind, negative thought patterns is hard, but worth it. Yes, you're right, John London. And we do that at the end of these lives. So y'all hang in here so you can be in charge of your own regulation and regeneration, because the breath, is a lot of times we don't even take a breath when I'm working with people and they're da 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 da. And I know that I'm doing that because I'm trying to be mindful of your time here. I'm only on here for maybe an hour. I was listening with me. It's my manager who has made me believe. I'm so sad to hear that. I know, Viola, that is hard. That is hard. So, okay, we don't talk about politics, religion, my age, or dating status on here, brutal facts, but I hope that you'll stay and that something's going to help you today, okay? So verbal abuse isn't always yelling, cursing. Sometimes it's blame. Sometimes it's making a child feel responsible for adults' emotions. The child isn't equipped to carry that burden, but many of us did. We grew up believing that if everyone around us was okay, then somehow, we were winning. And if they weren't okay, that we had failed. And that's a wound that deserves healing. This is when we learn to rock the boat, not to rock the boat, and to walk on eggshells, these kind of things. Thank you, Parth Mehta. Thank you. Thank you, Viola. I hope that this helps this morning. Statements like, you made me angry. Look at what you did. If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't feel this way. You're the reason I'm upset. See, we may even be saying that to other people now because that's a learned dialogue. It's imprinted, embedded, and ingrained. And we can't blame our parents because this is about empowerment here. It's about winning. And winning is empowerment, being in charge of my own mind and my own feelings. And so we have to learn how to do that because we didn't learn when we, maybe got this kind of imprint. So you get to learn how to do that. And it is in your choices, being comfortable in your choices and not the anticipation and strategizing what people want you to do so that you feel safe. So let me get back to the notes here. When that happens and that becomes our internal dialogue, it's not self-love. When we think that other people, too many truth denying. I don't know what that means, brutal facts, but okay. Hopefully something I say will help you. John London. Yes, we got to rewrite our internal dialogue. Where did this come from? And knowing that that person was probably wounded too, and that our parents' didn't have YouTube, Google, and all the resources that we have today. So again, we're not blaming parents. All right, I'm going to have to delete some comments if y'all can distract me. We don't talk about politics, religion, my age, or dating status, Soyton fans. So, but hopefully something I say can help you. So we're talking about the voices. Whose voice is talking to you today? So it's not self-love when we think someone's thinking negatively of us, because people aren't thinking about us as much as we give them credit for. And that's giving your power away when you're trying to be in someone else's mind instead of your own. Okay. So that's a learned survival, though. Thank you, Daddy KVC. So well, keep listening, Soyton fan, and I hope that this will help you too. JR, remember to be respectful for all. Exactly. So this learned survival, and this is where healing comes in. Healing the process is changing how we see ourselves and our experiences, but we have to heal them because we can't just put a mantra, right, John London? You can't just put a mantra on it and it heal, because then we will negate that and start having an argument with ourselves. Right? We can't feed ourselves even information that we don't believe. So it's because all of this is about our belief system. So it's about changing our belief system if it's not serving us, but we need to heal it. We can't just say, oh, I'm not going to think negative thoughts, because you're going to think negative thoughts. You just are. It's, even so, the more we try not to do something, sometimes the more it keeps popping in our mind, right? So it's about having harmony in between that negativity and positivity. That's acceptance, because in reality, that's what all of us want, is acceptance. So healing the process is not denying what happened, but by no longer letting it define who you are. All right. I don't think that this person is on this topic, so we're going to just put them out for now. Okay. All right. So I can stay on topic too. So, Block Brute. I think I just did, Viola. I just did. The moderators aren't here this morning. So in America, they're all gone to work. So the moderators aren't here today. So I got to moderate myself. So, Antonio, okay. Good morning, Antonio. You're very welcome, darling. So healing requires us to feel what we weren't allowed to feel before. That's what healing is. Okay. Because we just should on ourselves, because we have thank you, JR. We just will should on ourselves. I had to learn first thing in therapy is not to should on myself. So I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have said this. I should have said that. I had to learn don't should on myself, because shoulding is shaming. So we're through with the shouldn't, because maybe somebody told us, you should have done this. You should have done that, after we've already done something. That's really not beneficial, is it? No, it's not. So we want to do things that are going to be more beneficial for us. We learn from our shoulds, and we stop that. But the reality is just like I said, because we get in an adult body doesn't mean that we all of a sudden have that emotional immaturity. But the thing is that the emotional maturity. The thing is, because we have the inner child wounds. That's what we're talking about, is when the inner child wounds and your mature self collide, that's where the confusion is. And it can be kind of like a combustion, right? It's like, and that's where the overwhelming and the frustration and all of this comes in, is when We have this, so we can't ignore that inner child anymore if we're having these shoulds going on, because that's where it comes from, is some of that dialogue. Silent gaming. When I'm overwhelmed, I feel like exactly, exactly. I have felt that way too. Silent gaming is when I got put on the spot. I remember one time, I can vividly recall, Grinch is still in the house. He's in his house. Yeah, he's in his house. So when I was, I recalled one time, because that intimidation, as I had to learn that word intimidation so that I would know that's what I was feeling. And one time I was put on the spot in a work meeting, and they wanted me to do something. I struggle with technology, and they wanted me to do something technological in front of people. And I felt like this little 8-year-old girl in front of the chalkboard with one sock up and one sock down. You know how that is. And I felt like that little 8-year-old girl in front of the chalkboard, afraid to make a mistake. So sometimes when we realize and can relate with that, so I held my cool during that meeting. But when I got out of that meeting, I cried and I had to do my tapping about why did I feel that way. And I felt like I felt like this person was trying to intimidate me. What I realized is intimidation is other people's insecurity, when even if I feel like somebody else is trying to intimidate me. And what I started thinking, and when the healing process came, is it was her insecurities bumping up against my insecurity, because the fear of looking stupid can be an insecurity. I understand that. A lot of us have that fear of looking stupid, you know? It's so bizarre. I know, right? So we don't deny what happened. We don't deny those feelings. I shared the other night, John London's heard it many times, about how, my fifth grade teacher told me, put your thinking cap on. And I wasn't focused on school because my family was crazy. And so I was focused on, well, when, I didn't know, I was fragmented because I didn't know when I went home what was going to be going on with my dad. He was in addiction, and what was going to be going on with my mom and all of this. So sometimes, and maybe that had happened the night before, and I just couldn't focus. These kids, we can't focus sometimes when we come from families that have this fragmentation, you know. That doesn't mean my mom was bad. She's watching this. That just means that we are all growing and learning. And she didn't have the resources that we have here, and so we didn't know how to handle these things. Back in those days, people got married right out of high school and they weren't even grown yet and didn't have emotional maturity. So healing requires us to feel what we were never allowed to feel. My family is still crazy. I got to tell y'all, there's my mama. I got to tell y'all, I was getting gray hair. I had that patch like Steven Tyler. I had this one patch of gray hair when I was 25 years old. I asked my mama, I said, Mama, why I have gray hair? Why do I have gray hair? I don't even have kids. And she's like, honey, that's because you got parents. Because I did. My parents were cray, cray, cray. My mom says we grew up together because she was very young when she had me. So healing requires us to feel like what we were never allowed to feel. Sometimes that means grief. Some of you may, grieve the childhood that you wish you had. Once you grow up or you see other, people well balanced or whatever, you may wish you had that childhood. Can practice, and yes, it can help you, Kalik. I'm going to get to that here at the end of this video, because we can't put potpourri on poop, right? I mean, it's like some of the mantras are like putting potpourri on poop, because when you've got negative thinking and you just throw a mantra on it, it's not going to change anything. So it's about doing a realistic mantra. So hang in here with me, y'all. I'm going to get to that, okay? All right. So sometimes we need to grieve what we wish would have happened, whether it be the family, the relationship, the job. Now you old, still trying to grow up. I know, Mama. I know. So sometimes that means sadness. Sometimes that means tears. Look, guys, you can cry too. I have a lot of men in here think they can't cry, but we all have tear ducts. Sometimes I wonder if we ever stop growing up, or does it become a choice to grow later on? I think that for me, John London, that's a great, great comment. I think for me, the older I get, the less I like those butt whoopings when I try to be, hell bent and determined to do things my way. So I become more teachable, and that's humility. That's not humiliation. That's humility. I will maybe have some humiliation if I don't listen to other people, because there's other people. I had to learn that if I want what somebody has, I have to do what they did. And I have to be willing to learn instead of negating, because a lot of times our egos start making us negate things when we hear some logical things that make sense. We'll be like, oh, yeah, but I tried that. Or, oh, yeah, we may have a problem for every solution. And, when we see how that works for us, then we become teachable, more humble. Humble doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're poor. It doesn't mean these things, even though sometimes people perceive it to be that way. So, again, it's about taking charge of the voices and the words that we have in our own minds so that we're not being blindly led by others. Because how many of us have felt blindly led by other people's words, too? We live in a life of uncertainty, and the only thing we can be certain of is ourselves, and our being maybe connected to our source. If you believe that, and I do, but not everybody does, and I respect all beliefs here, so it's okay. So sometimes we just have to have our tears. I know that I have a Texas hissy fit. I may cry and sling some snot because I'm having to break down an old belief system that's no longer serving me, or maybe some old words that I don't need to have in my head, some old thoughts that don't serve me. So it's about getting back in my own head and in my own feelings rather than trying to distract myself, feeling my feelings so I can heal them. So tears aren't weakness. Tears are tears are the body's way to be honest and release our emotional pain, release that emotional pain, release that frustration, release that feeling of being overwhelmed. My poor brothers, they when I start crying, sometimes I just be talking and I'll just start crying, and they're like, they don't know what to do with this, and I'll be like, I'm just overwhelmed. And so it's okay to just tell people I don't have anything to blame, anything to put it on. I can just be feeling overwhelmed. I can just be feeling frustrated. And I may want to cry when I feel that way. So tears are a nonviolent release, because a lot of times when we feel overwhelmed and frustrated, and it might have been a learned dialogue, a learned behavior, that it could be a violent release about blaming. It could be about punishing another adult. And it's really not our business to punish other adults. And I will not be punished by other adults. They may try, but I won't be punished by other adults. So when we cry, we're not breaking down. We're letting something out that has been held in for too long. Sometimes you just got to be sad, but we don't want to stay there, because that's not what we were put here to do. We're put here to be unity and community. And sometimes it is okay to be sad in that unity and community. But we're not meant to stay sad, because we live in this electromagnetic field, and we wouldn't have all these different feelings and choices. And that's the thing, is that we can't stay limited in these feelings and in these thoughts. So that's empowerment and expansion. So it's about healing those things that we thought were limiting to us, the thoughts that were limiting, and learning to expand those words. I have on Mondays on Facebook, we have our, you know, um, self-esteem alphabet, so that we can learn more words, start thinking more words, start thinking something else, start thinking about something else rather than playing the old tapes over and over. Soy Tin fan. Yes, it's true. It's better to let go of emotions. It really is. And it's healthy. It's a nonviolent release to cry and to realize, what am I feeling? Not what did they do, and sometimes people will do things to you, but what am I feeling? Most of the time we're like, why did they do this to me? And we become a victim, but that's not being empowered. We are legitimately victims, but it's no place to stay, because we get to learn. We can learn from these things. We do get hurt, Viola. We do get hurt sometimes. At the job, they say things that are negative to us. They say things that hurt our feelings. They make us feel like we're not worthy, like that they're doing us a favor by us working there. Maybe you might feel that way, but that's not a fact. That's not a fact. The reality is that you are worthy and that you are valuable. And because somebody is, maybe their insecurity is trying to bump your insecurity. And then we get to choose whether I'm going to stay here in this, because I had to remember and taking responsibility. My worst job was in a dry cleaners, and I was smelling these smells. And as a person who likes to meditate, and those chemicals are toxic, and as a person who likes to meditate, I was so mad that I was working in that dry cleaner and I was fussing. And then I had to remember, Stacy, you're bringing yourself to this job every day. So empowerment told me, Stacy, go find another job. Because sometimes we can imprison ourselves with these thoughts and these feelings, and we can keep staying there. But do we want to stay there? No, sometimes it means, okay, this has served me for this time. This is a catalyst for my growth. It showed me what I do not want. So it's time for me to move forward to what I do want rather than trying to keep navigating what we don't want. That's coming from our fear of safety, fear of security, when we're just trying to stay focused and anticipate and strategize so that we don't receive more of what we don't want. And oftentimes we do receive more of what we don't want. But we are not our thoughts, feelings, or body. We are awareness, observing the thoughts. Exactly, Roots Radix. But sometimes it takes a while for us to realize that, because we are unity and community as well, and sometimes we vibe off of other people, and so it's learning about how to be empowered and take our power back, because we don't. At some point in time, a lot of us fell out of that. We were exactly born that way. It's practice and development, Roots Radix, but we have to hear it. That's why I get on here, because we sometimes need that permission. We need to hear it from somebody else that it's okay to think about yourself, because people can be programmed by family, by churches, by different type of atmospheres. I totally agree with that, Roots Radix. I really do. John London, when we're self-empowered, we decide our best direction. Exactly. And I agree with you, Roots Radix, but I know even for myself, I work with a lot of people, and even though they have a belief in a source, trusting what? That's where a lot of the problem comes in, right, people? Is the trust. It's hard to trust sometimes when we have felt let down, when we have felt victimized. And in this life, a lot of us are going to feel let down and victimized. And it's not holding on to that, but moving forward. But a lot of people like myself didn't learn how to move forward. I had to be taught how to move forward. And that's what I try to do on here. Hi, Tommy. Good afternoon. In sunny Sweden. Awesome. It's good to see you this afternoon, Tommy. Hello, handsome, huge tiger. Okay. So the pain comes out so that the healing can come in. Okay. We don't have to carry everything forever. Yeah, especially with AI, I know. So we also don't have to pass our pain on to other people. We don't have to bleed on people who didn't cut us. We don't have to hurt people because we were hurt, right? So it's about learning not to do that, because hurt people do hurt people. But healed people begin to make differences. We do. So sometimes in this process, we need support. We may need a coach, a therapist, a counselor, a trusted friend that we can be honest with and feel vulnerable with, that we're not having to try to protect ourselves, because we walk around oftentimes with this invisible force field on around us trying to protect ourselves, and we don't let people in. I do not have a college degree. I have a certification in paralegal. I have a certification in life coaching. I have a certification in therapeutic arts. I have a certification in many different things, but no. Okay, Bellene, that's not our topic today, but please stay. And so hopefully something I say will help you. So we need someone that we can feel safe enough to help us process our pain without judgment. Healing is not meant to be done in isolation. We can't create a different outcome from the same thoughts playing and replaying over and over. That's ruminating and that's obsessing. So knowing the difference between ruminating and obsessing, Bellene, the topic is whose voice is in your head? The difference between self-love, what's self-love, and healing those voices that weren't, that no longer serve us. So that's what we're talking about. Thank you so much. So healing is not meant to be done in isolation. And here we go. Positive affirmations alone do not heal emotional wounds. Thank you. Positive affirmations alone do not heal emotional wounds. So you can't just slap a mantra on it like that because you're not going to believe it. It's about changing our belief systems. And so we have to heal it to change it to something else. We have to acknowledge the wound that hurt us so we can go forward to what we want. Thank you so much, Bellany. I appreciate that. I hope that this helps you as we're halfway through, but I think that it's still going to help you because we're talking now at the part talking about how positive affirmation, it can sometimes feel like putting potpourri in the bathroom. You know what I mean? Is that it doesn't still cover it up. We know what happened there. So it's about acknowledging the pain. And then we can set, a mantra on it, but it can't be something that is not believable because we're fragile in our belief system when we're healing. So it's not about putting a mantra on there. So if part of us still believes we're not enough or that we're unsafe or that we're unworthy and we're simply repeating those positive statements, it may not reach that deeper place, that soul. It may not reach your soul. And the thing is the reason that healing is necessary, healing is about digging all those negative beliefs and those thoughts that didn't serve you and the pain, getting that pain off of your soul so that you can grow. Okay, so here we go. So instead of trying to force a belief, we begin with something more honest and something more grounded. We begin with direction. When I talk about the ego and the soul, the ego isn't all bad. The ego gives you your drive, your will to go towards what you want, if you will. But sometimes our self-will is just still trying to protect ourselves, and that's what the ego does too. So this is why we need to integrate our soul, healing the soul, so the soul can give us the direction that we want to go, or else you're going to be one-sided. How many of us have ended up in one-sided relationships to where we didn't feel seen or heard? So if we want to be whole, we have to acknowledge not just, trying to live in a fluffy world, but also acknowledge the negative things. So we begin with direction. We begin with truth-based affirmations that we can actually live into. For example, these are the affirmations that you can live into. I am doing the one thing today to move me toward my goals. That's if you want to lose weight, then you're going to choose, it's going to be your choice. That's the choices that we make. So if I want to lose weight, if I just eat a salad today or I eat something healthier today, if I say, I'm going to do the one thing today that moves me toward my goals. Am I going to walk to the mailbox? Am I going to walk down to the end of the street? The one thing. Hello, Rodolfo. It's good to see you. And then the thing is I choose the next right thing, because sometimes we can be obsessive about something negative, but we can turn that around and say, I'm going to choose, just do the next right thing. I know that's happened for me before, is that there'll be even my text messages, there may be a group chat that's very negative, and I have to say, I'm going to do the next right thing. And what's the next? Hey, Viola, and the next right thing. So what's the next right thing? What do I want? So it's about focusing on when I've got a negative chat going on in the text messages and the group messages, what do I want? Do I want to participate in the negative chat, or am I going to think, okay, I want to work, so I'm going to get on YouTube right now, and I don't want that energy going with me on YouTube, so I'm not going to look at those text messages. That's what I did this morning. So I choose to stay loyal to my integrity, because some people may be, doing some things that don't align with us. And so instead of trying to figure out, am I not doing the right thing? Because I will focus on applying for new jobs tonight. Good deal. Because sometimes it was a catalyst that we'd say, okay, I know that I don't want to do this. So I'll stay loyal to my integrity. To what do I want? So I'm willing, and it's not just the material things. It's like, what do I want? How do I want to feel? Because the feeling's going to motivate me. So I'm willing to pause before I react. And so we're going to do breathing here shortly. Okay. Hello, Andre Marie. So I'm learning to trust myself, one decision at a time. These are the mantras that I'm talking about. These are believable mantras. I'm learning to trust myself, one decision at a time. Making that one decision that's going to empower you to what you really want. So sometimes learning a new word. and thinking about how does that feel like for me, I wanted to feel cherished, but my therapist asked me, Stacy, what does that look like? And I was like, because I didn't know. So I had to start imagining, using my imagination towards what I wanted. So am I willing to pause before I react? Am I learning to trust myself one decision at a time? These are not pretending, and they're about being in alignment. So those are positive affirmations that you can use. That's not like putting the potpourri in the bathroom. That's not telling you I am rich when you got negative balance in your account, right? We are rich with other things, but then we get to mind screwing ourselves with this rationalization and justification. That's not, realization. So over time, action begins to change how we see ourselves. That's how we develop a positive self-esteem, is through practice and development, but it's doing one little thing at a time. So because healing is not just thinking differently, healing is living differently. So one of my favorite images is the kintsugi. Is it kintsugi or kintsugi? That's that Japanese art of repairing the broken pottery with gold, just like I talked about a while ago. The cracks are not hidden. They're filled with gold, and that's your wisdom, y'all. That's the wisdom that we get to obtain from our pain, is filling those painful cracks with some wisdom. Golden nuggets is what they call it, right? Golden nuggets. So the pain, it's not erased. It makes us more humble. It makes us more reachable. It makes us more real. It makes us a person. It helps us to heal. So they're filled with gold, filling your cracks with gold. We got to let the yucky stuff out so we can let the good stuff in. Oh, thank you so much, Verity123. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yep. Sending money's a good thing. I love that because, yeah, I've been living in these days too. So the piece becomes something new in its beauty, but it's still the same piece. You're still the same person that you were born. When we were born, we came out and we're like, look what I can do. And well, look at this. Let's play. And we forget to play. Sometimes we get too serious, like when I started off this, and somebody was teasing with me. Epic was teasing with me. So we don't become someone else. We remember who we are. All right. Well, that would be amazing, Verity, if you sent $1,000. Wouldn't that be a nice gift? So we uncover what was always ours underneath the fear, underneath the shame, and underneath the survival patterns. The reality is a lot of us don't even recognize these as survival patterns, that anticipation and strategizing as a survival pattern. We don't even know that we're doing it. So it's about acknowledging that I'm doing this. That's where we breathe and calm that central nervous system down, and we realize how we're really meant to feel. Is that we're meant to feel regulated and regenerated, not exhausted and frustrated. So we uncover what was always ours underneath the fear and the shame and the survival patterns. The pain doesn't disappear, but it transforms, because grief transforms. It doesn't go away. Love doesn't die. And you are love. Maybe you forgot that you are. So in what once was seen as broken begins to hold some wisdom. We start understanding that the old family dynamics were a catalyst for our growth. That old partnership was a catalyst for my growth. That old job was a catalyst for my growth. I don't have to hate on them. I don't have to be mean about them. I don't have to hate myself for having participated. That's where healing comes in, so that we have self-love. So it allows what no longer serves us to come out so that something new can come in. Clears that space inside of us so that we can feel comfortable in our own skin. And sometimes the pain actually slows our emotional growth when we avoid it. We still have that inner child wound. So when we're willing to feel it, we begin to grow again. We begin to accept our humanity. We're all humans. We're all trying. How many of us say, I'm trying? We begin to release the fear of being wrong, and the fear of being abandoned, and the fear of not being enough. And that we begin to realize something important, that there are feelings on the other side of fear. There are. When we can recognize our fear, we can understand that on the other side of our fear is peace, clarity, freedom, self-trust, love, acceptance, and presence. But we have to be willing to acknowledge, how does that feel? So when we do our breathing exercises today, whatever those words appeal to you, I hope that you will hold that on the in-breath. And then, when we're holding it, we'll breathe in fully because we're accepting the fullness of life, and breath is the life. And so then we're going to hold the feeling that we want to feel in our mind. What does that look like? For 4 counts. Hello, 5 elements, Bobby. And then we're going to release slowly and gently out of our mouth, because we release slowly and gently what no longer serves us, because a lot of us have learned there's no instant gratification. Right? So the instant gratification is usually self-sabotage. So self-love is not the absence of fear. It's choosing not to let the fear make decisions for you. So I want to leave you with a few questions today. One is, where in my life am I confusing fear with self-love? What feelings have I been avoiding that may actually be asking to be felt? What would it look like to choose the next right thing instead of the safest fear-based thing? And what would it look like to stay loyal to my own integrity today? Maybe you work at a place where there's a group of people gossiping and talking trash about people, and maybe you just choose today not to talk trash with them. It will make your soul feel better if you don't. And what would it look like to stay loyal to my... Okay, I already said that. So healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to yourselves just one moment at a time. So with that in mind, when we breathe out some of the feelings of frustration, obsession, rumination, breathe that out today. And then which of these words do you want to think about when holding your mind and produce its kind? Is peace, clarity, freedom, self-trust, love, and presence, because you're a winner. It's Wednesday. It's your day to win. And it doesn't have to be grandiose. It can just be one small thing, the next right thing. What are you working towards? What do you want? If you want to be thinner, then today maybe you're going to choose not to eat the fries. It's just that simple. And doing that one thing and seeing how that makes you feel when you are working towards more what you want and not what you don't want. So again, I'm going to just read those affirmations for you again. I'm doing that one thing today that moves me toward my goals. I choose to do the next right thing. I choose to stay loyal to my integrity. So what is it that I want? Who am I? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? I'm willing to pause before I react. So we're going to do the breathing, and that's going to help you with that pause. I'm learning to trust myself one decision at a time. Those are some positive affirmations you can work with today. Thank you, 5 Elements Infinity. It's good to see you too. So are y'all ready to breathe, darlings? John London, are you still here? Did you go to sleep or have to go to work? So let's breathe in together. If you've not been here before, we do 5 breaths. I'm not keeping you on here all morning, but I like us to breathe together because I do believe there's unity and community, and that what I breathe in and breathe out can, we can picture it touching each other, of what it is that we want ourselves. I've had to learn that, when I have bad feelings towards somebody else, to wish that for them, the same thing that I want for myself. Good morning, Princess Neri. So we're going to do the breathing. Again, you're going to breathe all the way in, filling up your tummy. Your shoulders will rise. You'll be able to get that breath right down your throat. Be open and full. Good morning, Strength or Bradbury. I'm about to be off of here. We're about to do the breathing. Are you ready to breathe with us? I'm good today. I hope your day's been good too. And then we're going to hold it for 4 counts, those feelings that I talked about earlier. What do you want? Clarity. Focusing on what do you want? Peace. What do you want? Thank you, John London. You ready to breathe with us, darling? I hope you're going to have a fabulous day. So we're going to do the 5 breaths, breathing in wholly. You were born whole, darling. So we're going to breathe that in. Your stomach will fill up with air. You'll be filling it up like you just don't care with the air, because that's safe. And it's So fill up your stomach with that air. Hold it if you can for 4 counts, but if not, just do the best you can. And then release gently and slowly. Okay? Just release gently and slowly, because we all want someone to be gentle and slow with us. That's how our healing works. It's not just a one and done. It's like a process, practice and development. Yes, Sreen Pradri, yoga was that presence, right? It's about being mindful and present. So let's just breathe in and do this. Y'all ready? Let's do this. Here we grow. Take a deep breath in. What are you going to breathe in? And then hold that feeling. Is it peace? Is it clarity? Is it love? Is it security? How does that feel? And then release gently and slowly. So I'm not going to suggest anymore. I just want y'all to feel the feeling of your breath rising and falling. And that's the way life on life's terms is. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. We're all safe and protected and divinely directed. Breathe. Hold it. And release. Just 2 more. Breathe in. Hold it. Release. Last one. Breathe. Hold it. And release. Grinch, are you not going to come tell these good people hello this morning? What if I start tapping? You going to come correct us? Let's see if Grinch comes to correct us. Let's see. There's the Grinch. Grinch, say good morning to everybody. Don't be crabby. Say good morning. Stop it. Grinch is being negative. Negative, negative, negative. All right, y'all. Y'all have a wonderful Wednesday. Thanks, Viola. I'm glad you're still here. How did you like that breathing? Just breathe, darling. Sometimes when they're being negative around you, just breathe. Look, John London says, good morning. Be nice. Be nice. Grinch being a grumpy Grinch today. So in the thank you, 5 Elements. In the self-esteem alphabet this week on Facebook, we were to the letter H. So what can we think of with the letter H? Is harmony. What do we want to embrace this day? Could it be harmony? Could it be humility? Humility is just being teachable and reachable. It's not humiliated. So learning, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is like the Grinch fan club. You are very welcome, darling. Thank you, Viola. I'm glad that you're here. And Strength Bradry. You're getting tired? So, yeah, the breath, it regulates us. It regulates our nervous system. But it also... thank you, 5 Elements. It also, besides regulating your nervous system, it also regenerates your cells in your body. And we're breathing in what we want, just feeling in our whole entire body, right? Hope for H. Yes, I love it, John London. Hope. So we're going to be hopeful today. So thank y'all for being with me this morning. I sure do love y'all. And I hope that you all have a happy, hopeful, harmonic day. And that, that you are, just have a wonderful Wednesday. Remember, you are a winner. I am a winner. And then just do that one thing, the one thing. And that's enough. That's enough to be a winner, is doing that one thing. All right? All right. Thank y'all so much. Have a wonderful Wednesday. I will see y'all on Friday night. Y'all, my Friday night day at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, okay? All right. Here we grow. Look. So, okay. I look forward to seeing y'all Friday night. Strength battery. The bird makes an appearance during concluding. Yep, Grinchy did. I'm going to have t-shirts made eventually that say the Grinch Fan Club featuring Stacey Renee, Mindset Coach. What do y'all think about that? So yeah, eventually, maybe by the fall. Yeah. All right, see you later, 5 Elements. Y'all have an amazing day. Bye. Thank you for that. Thank you all who have subscribed to this channel. If you feel like this will help other people, please feel free to share it, okay? Thank you so much. Bye. Well, I don't want me to end.